On his arrest in Dallas, what did the U.S. government know about Lee Harvey Oswald?
Now recall, the story was there was this fella Oswald, and we didn't really know much about him, and he came out of nowhere and shot the president. And what these files show is that's a cover story. That was not true. High-level CIA officials were paying attention to Oswald from November 1959 to November 1963.
And the newly released records support that. Files that fly in the face of the official story.
What this release tells me more is CIA's capabilities to monitor and manipulate Oswald.
And the documents show what he did and with whom. For example, this CIA cable dated October 8th, 1963, about Oswald's visit to Mexico City and his meeting at the Soviet embassy with Valery Kostakov, head of the KGB's Department 13, its assassinations branch. That cable went all the way to the top of the CIA, the head of U.S. counterintelligence, legendary American spy, James Angleton.
The CIA cover story is, our interest in Oswald was merely routine. Well, it wasn't routine. It was intensive, and it was at a very high level.
And there is another recently declassified document that raises questions. 2 days after Oswald was arrested, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover sent a memo marked secret in which he reveals the FBI had got a warning that Oswald would be killed, which he says was passed on to the Dallas police, to ask that Oswald be given sufficient protection, he wrote. If so, it didn't work. A few hours later, Lee Harvey Oswald was brought down by elevator to the basement of police headquarters.
There's a shot. Oswald has a shot.
He is unquestionably an American icon, the most glamorous president ever, with a White House called Camelot for a reason. So it should come as no surprise John Kennedy's assassination would generate 5 million pages of documents, of which, even after the recent release, thousands remain in the National Archives in Washington, still kept secret. According to many who've followed this story for decades, like investigative journalist Brian McKenna, those final files are likely the crucial ones.
Well, I think we're in the crown jewels now. That the fact that they're still trying to hide this stuff, there's something explosive there. I mean, all of the principal players are dead. So why are they still defending this? Why are they still, putting a stone circle around it and saying no one can go there?
Donald J. Trump!
Yet in the name of national security, President Donald Trump has pushed the deadline for release of the final documents to April 2018. Author Jeff Morley isn't convinced it will happen even then.
What the fact that they didn't comply with the law tells us is they intend to keep some of this material secret indefinitely. And I say it stands to reason, it's almost axiomatic, that the things that they don't release are going to be the most sensitive. Now some people say, well, they're just hiding nothing. I wonder about that. If they're hiding it for a reason, and they're going to try and hide this story.
So what is still being hidden? Perhaps CIA secrets. Morley has investigated the surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald by both the CIA and FBI, especially after Oswald met KGB assassinations officer Valery Kostakov in the months before Kennedy was killed.
Oswald comes back to the United States, and the CIA never says, well, to the FBI, why don't you go interview that guy and find out why was he talking to Kostakov. That never happened. It wasn't that the CIA ignored evidence that Oswald was a threat to the president. They ignored proof that he was a threat to U.S. security. It's a dog that didn't bark in the old Sherlock Holmes story. It's like, why? That's the thing that you would have expected to happen. The dog should have barked at Oswald, and it doesn't. And that enables him to go to Dealey Plaza.
Given all the revelations, former Fifth Estate producer Brian McKenna says he's come to a troubling conclusion.
I think it's pretty clear that Oswald was a CIA agent at this point. And the evidence is now just piling up and piling up that they were running him, they were controlling him.
And I think we're getting closer to the possibility that CIA officers were manipulating Oswald before. Now, they could have been manipulating him for other purposes, like to gather intelligence or, lure the KGB into something, or they could be manipulating him for something that was going to happen on November 22nd. That part of the story we don't know. But what these documents do for me is they heighten that possibility.
The possible rationales for killing Kennedy abound. Reports he intended to withdraw U.S. troops from Vietnam. A change of heart about deposing Fidel Castro. His initiatives to end the Cold War with the Soviets. Any or all could have made Kennedy a target at home or abroad. Indeed, Brian McKenna believes that by 1963, John Kennedy's policies made him persona non grata to many in the U.S. government and military.
Serious stuff. I mean, I believe there was a coup d'etat. That's what happened on November 22nd, 1963. There was this violent change in power in the United States, and it's never been the same since.
Years later, in Havana with former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, McKenna met and spoke with Fidel Castro. Castro and Kennedy certainly had differences, but they both clashed with the CIA. It made for an interesting chat with the Cuban leader.
I said, can we talk about the Kennedy assassination? And he said, yes. And I said, so was it the anti-Castro Cubans? He said, a lot of them were involved, but they couldn't have been alone. And he just said, the CIA.
There may well be an institutional reluctance to release, but for those seeking the secrets, there's always hope.
Do you ever expect to see that released?
Yeah, I do expect it. I do expect it to be released. It's not going to be easy. The thing that people like me have going for us, the overwhelming majority of Americans are on our side. Release it all now. And as long as that's true, I think that the public pressure will be able to push all of this material out into the open. And when that happens, we're going to learn something very new and very interesting about the assassination of JFK. I'm quite confident of that.
I think something's going to happen. I really do. It may take another 5-10 years, hopefully not beyond that, but I think that there's something explosive is going to happen in the Kennedy story. And I think we're going to find out there's a real reason why they're hiding documents even now.
54 years later, and counting, many are convinced the killing of President John F. Kennedy goes far beyond the lone gunman and the magic bullet that are still the U.S. government's official story. But unless and until those remaining records are finally released, the haunting question will remain as well. Who killed JFK?